Hey girlies, hey gays, hey theys, and welcome back to Live, Laugh, Love, Lesbian, a podcast for the girls who like girls, for the gays, for anybody who is a little bit queer. I am hoping you're all listening thinking, oh my god, that sound quality is insane, because I finally figured out the microphone. I needed to plug headphones in to make it work so like I can hear it, and then I don't really know how it works. It's too technical for me, but I can hear like the crisp, clear audio. So I'm really hoping you guys can too. And this is the start of Live, Laugh, Love, Lesbian being an even more great podcast because we now have even better sound quality. So it was definitely worth the £150. I hope. I hope you guys can hear this. I'm praying. So yeah, it's so good to be back in all of your guys' ears. And today I have a really exciting episode for you all. This week's episode, I interviewed Lauren Sandford, who is a lesbian relationship coach. I genuinely learned so much from this episode about myself, about my relationships, and I'm really hoping that you guys are going to come away from this episode the same, with so much more knowledge and just understanding of like how to sort of navigate your relationships and set boundaries and how to have clearer communication. Genuinely, it was so much fun and I loved it. Now, I do say the word interesting about 7,000 times, so take a shot every time you hear it, and you will all definitely be on the floor by the end of the episode because I was just, honestly, I was so interested in it. It was so amazing to learn from Lauren. And at the end of the episode, I mentioned it, but if you want to work with Lauren, if you want to follow her on Instagram or TikTok, it will all be linked in the description, and as well the link to her free attachment style quiz. You can do that. You can all message me, let me know what attachment styles that you and your partners are. Let me know if it's one that works really well or one that sort of clashes together. And yeah, I just really hope that you guys all absolutely love this week's episode. Don't think I really have anything to update you all on personal life wise. Obviously, I'm just loving life with the microphone. It's life changing. I can literally, could just, oh, this is the thing though. It picks up everything. Like if I do this, like you can hear everything so loudly. Like the other day when I was filming with Lauren, because we pre-recorded, my dad opened the door and I could hear everything. So need to make sure everyone in the house is really quiet. But anyway, enough of me blabbing. Let's get straight on into this week's episode. Let's just get started if you'd like to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Lauren and I am a relationship coach for lesbians. I've been doing it for about 5 years now, I would say, but I originally came from typical the police force. So that was something that I absolutely hated. But a lot of people would normally say, oh, that's a career that you'd want to go into.
Mm.
But for me, it was about finding something where I could really help people on a deeper level and people that really needed additional help. And I think the LGBT community is a minority community where we're overlooked a lot of the time. And it was important to me to be able to help my people, if that makes sense as well. So that's what I do for work. I live in Brighton in the UK and I'm 36 and in a very happy, secure relationship.
Love that. So, how did you get from sort of being in the police force to then being a relationship coach? Was it like an easy career change, or was it something that you had to like really like work hard to make that shift?
Yeah, so when I was in the police when I was younger, if you had asked any of my friends or probably exes at that time if I would be fit to be a relationship coach, they probably would have laughed in your face. And if they could see me now, they'd probably laugh in my face as well, to be honest with you. But back then, I had no clue that this is what I wanted to do. All I knew was that I wanted to have a career that I felt gave me importance and power and authority within whatever space I was in. And I thought the police was that, but very quickly I came to realize that it was just something that you did because you had to in terms of the work, um, speaking to or being told by authorities the type of things that you needed to do. And it didn't really make too much sense to me, but it gave me an element of authority. And that for me felt important. But the more that I did it, the more I came to realize that I wasn't really helping people in the way that I wanted to. And the thing that started to change for me when I started to think about getting out of my career was I got into health and fitness. And that kind of introduced me to the world of coaching in some capacity. And I was like, wow, like I can sort my physique out, I can sort my mind out, I can be around positive, good people. And back then, when I was in the police, which was quite a while ago now, we didn't really have any of that. There wasn't any of that around. So once I got introduced to that, I was like, wow, people do this for work as well. People are PTs, people are coaches in loads of different aspects. And I was like, could that be something that maybe I might be good at? And at the time, relationships was not the first thing on my mind. All I was thinking about was transitioning career where I could support people, help people, work for myself, work on my own time, earn my own money. And I actually got into lifestyle coaching first of all. So I used to help entrepreneurs with their lifestyles. And it wasn't the easiest transition. Like there are some transferable skills, but it was not the easiest thing to
Hmm.
do. Once I had entered into the industry and I learned the skills and how to build, then I began the journey of who is it I really want to help on a deep level. And I was like, once I had gone through all my trauma within my relationships, once I'd made all the mistakes and found a secure, happy relationship and worked really hard on myself, and so did my partner to create that, I was like, this is what I think I can help people with.
Hmm.
So I got additional qualifications around relationship coaching, and that was really the start of it.
I love that. Like you said, it is like, we are quite a small community. Like, there's not loads of us in this. So I think it's so important to have that, like, specific coaching available because going to just like a generic relationship coach, they probably won't have the answers that a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus community need and they need to hear because they're just giving like a generic answer, whereas you're able to see it like, you can understand it on like a deeper level and actually probably give advice that is going to be useful other than, a generic relationship coach just giving a bit of like wishy-washy advice. So
Yeah, and let's be real, women, women and women relationships are not the easiest, right?
mhm.
We're fueled more with emotion, our hormones are all over the place sometimes, and it's so much more difficult to navigate conflict when you're in that space a lot of the time. And what I found was that there weren't many coaches out there that were supporting female to female relationships.
Mm,
So I was like, why not? I'm in the community. I know what it feels like. I've been through it. So that's exactly what I'm going to support other people in
mm.
doing, creating good relationships.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I don't think I've seen like another LGBTQ plus relationship coach, like specifically even like a lesbian relationship coach out there. So I think
Yeah.
it's so important and like, we are like a niche small community, but there's a lot of us in there who I think really could benefit from stuff like this. So we'll move on to our little question of the week. So this week's question of the week is, do you and your partner share friends? And I thought this would be an interesting one to do with you. Obviously, looking at things as a relationship coach, there might be some answers that, sort of give you a bit of a red flag or anything like that. So I'll just read out a couple of the sort of the best ones that we've had.
Yeah.
So first one we've got, we did have the same friend group for a while, but we learned it's actually way better to have separate friends. It helps us to get out more and not to cling to each other. We found that in a group together, we just didn't really mix as much with the friends and we did end up upsetting each other.
I think that there are two parts to that, really. The first is it good to have friends if you flip the question around together? Yeah, of course. It's good to do things together, go out together. But then if you think about your own independence and your own autonomy and having a sense of self, it's really important to have your own
Mm,
friendship groups as well. So yeah, I can see why that it would cause problems if you didn't have any of your own friends outside of your
mhm.
relationship, for sure.
Definitely. So next one we've got, we have a group of shared friends, but we find it really important to make sure that we have our own separate friends so that we don't spend 100% of our time together.
Yeah.
I think that's a really healthy response. Like we've got a few friends that we share, but we also make sure that we're not, constantly with each other. I think that's
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah, that is a really good one. And it pretty much just summed up what I said before.
Hmm.
It's like if you spend too much time with anyone, you're going to become agitated by them in some capacity. That's why we argue in relationships when we live together, right? We're in each other's pockets, so we learn to be in each other's pockets. But if we're in each other's pockets outside of our home life as well, of course, it's just going to create more arguments the more that we spend time together.
You find more to pick at, won't you, when you're just constantly together? It's like you'll see more things that they do that annoy you, and it's like, for God's sake.
Yeah, 100%.
So, next one, she shares most of her friends with me, and they are gay, but I have a lot of separate friendship groups in which none are gay. It's very random. Fair enough. That
Yeah,
was
I mean,
sort of part of my question as well. I did sort of say, like, are the friendship groups that you have, are they mainly for mainly gay people or straight people, and does that like affect the dynamic of the relationship? If your partner's going out with a group of all gay friends who are maybe single, and like the point of their night out is to get with people, like does that affect the relationship? Because you're like, well, how can I know that I can trust you going out on this night out with your friends? So it's
yeah.
interesting.
Here's the thing though, that all revolves around trust in your
Mhm.
relationship, right? If you are in a lesbian relationship and your partner's got gay friends, why is that a problem as opposed to as if they had straight friends and they were
Mhm.
going out with straight friends? What would be the issue? I guess the only issue would be an element of trust, right?
Mhm.
And then you need to think about, why is it I'm feeling those feelings around distrust? Because a lot of people will say to you, oh, I don't have a problem with them going out with other gay people. It's just I don't trust other people. That's what a lot of lesbians will tell
Mhm.
you. Don't trust other people. It's not you. Rubbish.
It's just
Absolute.
like a cop out saying, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like, so they don't want to admit the truth to themselves. I've definitely been guilty of that in the past as well. I'm like, don't trust other people on a night out. And it's like, no, just
yeah.
actually say what you mean.
Exactly. And I think a lot of the time you feel unsafe. And so you project things onto others when actually what you're trying to say is, this makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. I'm not suggesting you're going to cheat on me, but I probably need reassurance in this
Hmm.
instance. But saying that just feels so much heavier than going, oh, I trust you, I don't trust them, so
Yeah,
I'm not
totally.
talk about it.
Definitely an easy cop out, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, next one, yes, all of our friends are shared. I guess if you maybe like work in a similar like sector and everything like that, you probably do share friends. But I do see the importance of having friends, like your own set of friends, because you need people to bitch about your partner to. Like Taylor does my head in sometimes. I just need to tell someone, be like, oh my god, absolutely pissed me off today. Like you need people that you can go and just have a
Yeah.
vent to, and then come back to your friends and your partner and be like, yay, everything's fine now. Like I've spoke
Yeah.
my mind.
And if you don't have that, and you do have shared friends, then you put your friends in a really awkward situation as well, in terms
Oh
of,
god, you're like if there's an argument or anything.
yeah, they think that they're gonna have to not only listen to you, but potentially listen to your
Yeah, and
partner.
maybe like choose a side and who are they gonna like. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. Right, last one. It's quite interesting this. No, I really don't get along with my girlfriend's friends. Dot dot dot. I think they're a bad influence.
Mm. Ooh, sketchy. I wonder
Getting
why.
juicy.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I wonder if that's like the like I don't get along, like I don't trust them. I wonder if that's maybe like, like we were just saying just then, like, is it that you don't trust them or is it that you don't trust your relationship's not strong enough so that you have to blame it on the
Mm.
friends?
I've had an actual instance of this recently with a client where she didn't like her partner's friendship circles, and
Mm-hmm.
we worked out together that the reason being was because she felt as though her friends brought out the worst in her partner. And in terms of my client's values and in terms of how her partner was behaving, there was a disconnect.
Oh.
And that's why there was tension. It wasn't so much that they were going out drinking and having fun. It was more like, that's okay, but doing that regularly doesn't connect with me. So
Mm-hmm.
how am I going to overcome that? And are you the right person for me? And that's where the frustration comes from sometimes.
It's interesting because like having like the same sort of lifestyles or different lifestyles, I feel like that can really affect your relationship. Like I know for me, like if Taylor wanted to go out partying and clubbing all the time, I'd be like that's not a lifestyle that I want to live. Like I don't have the social battery for that. So I'd be like, oh, it's draining, isn't it? And then eventually over time, you're like, well, what are you doing on these nights out? So you can really see how it can like break down a relationship over time.
Oh my God, like 100%. And misalignment of what I call core values, so the things that you desire and want for yourself in your life, are one of the biggest reasons for relationship breakdowns.
Oh.
They don't align. And it's
Hmm.
like, you can have, have you heard that saying, sometimes love's not enough?
Yeah. Hmm.
That's exactly the right
Yeah.
frame. Love isn't enough. Are your core values aligned in what you want? And if you were the kind of person, as an example, that you're a bit of a homebody, you wanted to start a family, you want a dog, you want to settle down, you're happy with where you live, but your partner's a bit of a free spirit and wants to live a life of travel and is not really invested in a mortgage and having kids, how is it possible that you're going to create stability in your relationship in the long term? It's not going to happen.
No, it's so like that's so interesting. Like a really interesting way. I've said interesting so many times, but it is a really interesting way to think about it. And because I guess that's thing, if you're not going to align and if you can't sort of come to terms on like what you both sort of want out of life, Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy. So,
Mhm.
moving on your Linktree, which everything will be linked in the bio, guys. You have this free quiz which people can do to find out like what attachment style they are. So me and my girlfriend did it last night, and so I was an anxious attachment, and Taylor is an avoidant attachment. And I was wondering, is there like any partnerships that like don't work, or any that sort of like work together really well? Is because I'm sure a lot of people, I'll link it in the bio so you all can all go and do the quiz and find out what you and your partners and your friends are. But I just think it'd be interesting to know if there's any that like clash, any that sort of will never work, any that are like perfectly matched, that sort of thing.
I'll give you the long story short of best attachments, most troublesome attachments, and worst attachments. All
Mm-hmm.
right. The ultimate best attachment you can have is a secure and a secure relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right? That makes sense, where you're both understanding of one another, you both have a strong sense of self-worth, you're both independent, you're both connected, you're both understanding. That's the best type of attachment. But not that many people are secure because we have a lot, most of us have a lot of trauma from our past and we don't even realize. And even relationships as well, some previous relationships that we don't realize we've brought different attachments into new relationships. The next best attachment styles to have together are an anxious and anxious attachment. The reason being is because if you're relatively anxious within your relationship, you naturally will need more reassurance. You'll
Mm-hmm.
need to be closer to your partner. You'll need more intimacy generally. And if you're with another anxious person, you're going to be able to give each other what you need because you understand each other's behaviors.
Yeah.
It might create a lot of neediness and you might be attached at the hip. And that's where you need to look at considering other types of friendships and
Mm-hmm.
connections to be able to have independence within your relationship. Um, a more troublesome attachment style connection will be anxious and avoidant together. So, like you and your partner, as an
Mm-hmm.
example, if you are committed to working on your attachment styles and you want to help support your partner and their needs, of course you can change attachment styles. It's not set in stone. Just because you're one doesn't mean you're stuck with it. But with anxious and avoidant, if an anxious attachment isn't healed and can become very needy within their relationship, it will naturally push an avoidant away. So you may find that whenever you have conflict within your relationship, you're the one wanting to resolve quickly, and your partner is normally the one wanting a bit of space,
Yeah,
as
100%.
right?
Nail on the head.
You see space as rejection generally.
Like you've literally just opened me up and looked inside my soul. That's literally me. Like, why are you not replying to me? Why are you not like literally can't deal with it?
Yeah, and it is infuriating for somebody that is anxious.
Mm-mm.
And I'm not saying that an avoidant attachment style is bad because ultimately it's the same in many ways. You just respond differently. When you feel unsafe, you need closeness, you need reassurance, you need connection. When they feel unsafe, they need space, they need distance, they need
Mm-hmm.
alone time. So they can just process because that's how safety feels to them. So it's not wrong. It's just about learning why your partner's responding in that way and learning healthy ways in which you can both have your needs met
Mm-hmm.
without feeling fully rejected.
Yeah, it's just making that compromise, isn't it? Like understanding, like I may not want the space right now, but that's what you need, so I will go and scroll on TikTok for half an hour and give you the space, and then turn around and be like, "Trying to be friends again."
You've literally just summarized it perfectly. That's exactly what it is.
Hmm.
It's about learning, well, you've pissed me off, or I've pissed you off, and I need some space, or I need reassurance. We both don't want to give each other what we need right now. So how can we compromise to make sure that the anxious isn't going to become more anxious and that the avoidant isn't going to be more pushed away? So you've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, it's just I just love like learning about how everything like works. It's so I'm gonna say interesting again, but it's so interesting. Take a shot every time I say interesting, guys. You'll
It
be absolutely pissed.
is. You'll be drunk in 5 minutes.
Literally, it'll
Yeah.
be absolutely what's the word? Mortal. Absolutely mortal.
More.
Very
What
drunk.
what anxious and avoidant attachment styles will do in a positive light toward an anxious person is should they see the relationship through and become secure, they will be really, really resilient as individuals because they will have learned how to overcome an anxious attachment
Hmm.
and that with an avoidant, and that will create such a strong sense of self-worth because you've moved through the uncomfortableness. And same to the extent for an avoidant, but not quite as much because an avoidant needs to learn healthy ways to open up and healthy ways not to detach. Whereas having the resilience to stick around when an avoidant removes themselves requires a lot of power and a lot of strength. So that will be really beneficial for an anxious person should they be able to do that. The
Great.
worst type of attachment together is an avoidant and an avoidant.
Oh God, I bet like they just don't want to speak to each other. Like, give me space. No, I need space.
Exactly. Like, good luck resolving an argument.
Yeah,
Good
like
luck
no one's
dealing
going to
with
be the
it.
first one to break the silence. Yeah.
Exactly. And don't know if you know this, but statistically, over 70% of people in the dating pool are avoidant. And that says a lot. And the reason why is because avoidants struggle to stay in relationships longer than anxious or secure people.
Mm.
And an avoidant with a secure person will end relatively quickly because a secure person won't be able to deal with the avoidance
Mhm.
and the removal of emotion. And then an anxious person will likely stick around, but very likely push an avoidant away if not careful.
Mhm.
But avoidant, you were just never going to really resolve anything
Yeah.
unless you identify and do the work. And it would be very difficult for two avoidants to overcome problems. So the
Mhm.
dating pool's full of avoidance, so be
That's
careful.
like big, isn't it? Like 70%. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot because avoidants generally can't stick around in relationships too long.
Mm.
So they go back into the dating pool and then they don't find anybody that meets their needs necessarily.
Mhm.
And the only way that that's going to change is if people do the work on understanding their attachment and how to overcome the problems that that attachment creates in relationships.
There we go. So everyone, go and do the quiz, and then you can come to Lauren for some fabulous coaching to figure out how to make it work with you and your partners. Is it that? Is it the three options? So there's anxious, avoidant, and secure.
They're the main ones.
Main
Yeah,
ones.
there are a couple of others. There's what's something called disorganized, which is a mixture
That
and
sounds a bit like me.
yeah, disorganized in life or
Yeah,
relationship.
just in general.
Yeah, disorganized is like a mixture of avoidant and anxious together. But it's really important to remember that although when you do the attachment quiz, you're going to get an overview of your attachment style, people portray loads of different qualities of
Mhm.
each attachment style within themselves, no matter what. So you may have like a leading attachment style, but just know that there will be other traits in you that might be different to the one that you've been prescribed with.
That seems like everyone's probably like got a little bit of everything. It's just one that's going to be like your sort of main attachment style.
Exactly.
Great. So we've had a couple of questions and dilemmas and bits like that sent in. So I've tried to choose some really good ones so you can maybe just give them like a little bit of advice, anything that you think might help them out. So the first one is more of just a question and it says, how do past relationships affect your current relationship?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, real good question. And I guess a simple answer to that would be they do affect future relationships that you have. And the reason being is because when you leave a relationship, really simply put, you get sometimes left with
Mhm.
baggage from the relationship. However, it's ended, we always ask ourselves questions when relationship ends. Things like, could I have done things differently? Was it all them? Was it me? Could I have been different? Could they have been different? And quite often our brains will lead us down a route of making us feel like we weren't enough within the relationship sometimes. And naturally that creates baggage that moves into the next relationship. So absolutely previous relationships impact future relationships. But the thing that you need to just remember the most out of that is it's about having awareness. It's not about changing anything. It's just about knowing that that previous relationship may have impacted you in some way, whichever
Mhm.
way that is. Even if it ended in a healthy manner, things will still be you will still be thinking things moving on to a next
You
relationship.
always carry things with like even things that you've like not even relationships like things that like parents have said parents things that have happened at school with friendships like you will always carry like some form of that sort of like baggage along with you, won't you?
Yeah, and that's how attachment styles are formed, right? As well, in previous relationships, through caregivers, through parents, through friendships, they all define you as you get a little bit older. So they do play a big part.
Great. So next one, I'm currently in my very first lesbian relationship. Is there any specific red flag signs I should look out for?
One would be having emotional capacity. And what I mean by that is someone willing to sit down and talk to you about yours and their emotions and needs and boundaries. That would be the most simplest
Mhm.
one. Because if not, it's very unlikely that you're going to have your needs and boundaries respected and met, and that's just going to cause you problems in the long run. So that would definitely be something to look out for. And the second I would say is if they go regularly hot and cold with you. That would indicate to me that there's some form of disconnect with the amount that they like you, or some
Mhm.
form of disconnect with another connection that they may or may not have. So be aware if they're going hot and cold that there's very likely a reason behind that, and you probably want to look into it.
Mhm. That's quite like love bombing, isn't it? Like they're like give you everything, and then all of a sudden it's very like they step away, and but you now convinced that like they love you, so it's hard sometimes to step away. So it's very good to be switched on.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, next one. How do I tell my girlfriend I need more reassurance from her in our relationship?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is going to sound really simple. Ask for more
It's
reassurance from.
so hard, isn't it? Like it's the most obvious answer, but actually telling people like just say it, like just say how you feel. It's so much harder, like harder said than done, isn't it? But
Yeah.
definitely worth
So
it.
it it's so worth it because it's like in order to be happy, you must feel heard, not just in a relationship, but in anything. When you're at work, if let's say you're employed by someone and you've got a boss or you've got colleagues and you're trying to do something, you're trying to get a point across, you need to feel seen and feel heard to get the job done or to be understood within the particular topic that
Mhm.
you're in or talking about within the work environment. Same in your relationships. You can't be happy in a relationship unless you can feel heard and feel seen. And the only way you're going to feel heard and feel seen is by speaking up. You're right, it's not easy, especially if you're anxious.
Mhm.
Just know and connect with your worth and your value as a person. Do a lot of work on yourself in that respect, and it will become easier for you to ask for what you need. The sooner you do it in a relationship, the better, so you can set the expectation for the relationship. What a lot of people do is they love bomb in the first few
Mhm.
months of the relationship. They give their partner everything they need while completely disrespecting their own needs and desires. And then slowly they start to bring that out in themselves for their needs
Mhm.
and their wants. And their partner goes, hang on a minute, where's all this coming from? You never used to be like that. But actually, they always were like that, but they never felt safe enough to talk about it. And
Mhm.
just know that the sooner you do it, the better.
I definitely need to take some of the advice of just like saying things. I always make things into a joke. Like
Yeah.
Taylor had done my head in the other day. They've been washing on the bed for like 3 days, and I was like, I'm like, just had to make a complete joke. I was like, can we do the washing today? Like, I need to put like we need to put stuff away, and she was like, oh yeah, and I was like, then eventually felt a bit comfortable. Like we had a little bit of a laugh about it. I was like, this stuff is going to need to go in the wash again. It's been sat on the bed that long, and then I was like, it would be nice if we could put it away though. And then oh, when I felt awful, I was like, oh my gosh, she hates me. She hates me. She thinks I'm awful. But you definitely feel better when you do it. And then now the washing's all away and it's all happy families again. But it is right. You just need to rip the bandage off and just say
Yeah.
how you feel.
And what would you have done in that circumstance if you didn't ask her and you had gone and done it yourself?
See, I'm not allowed to put the washing away because I'm not very good at folding. So that's Taylor's job. I'm allowed to put my own washing away, but I'm not allowed to touch her clothes because I won't fold them correctly. So
Okay.
that's her job. So it's not. I can't really help in this situation. I'm just sitting staring at the clothes on the bed. I'm like, can you put them away?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not allowed.
Well, that sounds like a great setup.
You
You
know
put your
what? I am very lucky. I don't really do the dishes. Taylor does most of the washing. Well, I sometimes put things in the wash. She folds everything. She irons it all. She does my hair. It's great. That's the best thing about being dating another woman. Like, you can share
Mhm.
clothes, you can share shoes. Like, all of that stuff is just great. Sometimes when I do sort out the washing, I like sort us into piles, and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to put this in my pile," and then I'll put my stuff away. So when she comes around to do her stuff, like 3 days later, she's like, "Where's my t-shirt?" I'm like, "I don't know. This is in my drawer."
I love that.
It's
Me too.
brilliant. Love it. Like literally, when people ask like, "What's the best thing about being a lesbian?" I'm like, "We get to share clothes and shoes." And me and Taylor are the same shoe size, so it's brilliant.
It literally is the best. Like me and my other half, she's also called Lauren, so we're both called Lauren, which is
That's
funny.
brilliant.
And we often go out shopping, and when we do, if we see something we like, so let's say the other week this literally happened, we found a coat that we both
Mhm.
loved, and we both would wear the same size, so we split the cost. It was 100 quid coat that was 50 quid each.
That's
And we
so good.
went,
But it's funny, like you say, so you're dating another Lauren. So I'm Juliet Taylor, and I'm dating Taylor Rolton. So we keep having the debate when we get married, when Taylor puts a ring on it. It's like, basically the solution is I'll either have to just keep my surname or I'll have to change to Juliet Rolton because Taylor does not fancy being Taylor Rolton or Taylor Rolton Taylor, which I understand. It's not giving the vibes, but I was like, I'll have to either keep Taylor or I'll have to change to Rolton because there's no way she wants to be Taylor.
Oh, that
Even though
sucks.
it would be funny, I think it would be so funny. What's your
I,
name? Taylor.
how cool would that? I think that would be cool.
I think it would be brilliant. Anytime anyone meets her and they sort of like put two and two together, like, wait, Juliet Taylor, they'll say it to her and she gets so annoyed. She's like, I'm not being called Taylor. Even her family, we were just at a family wedding and they were all like, oh, like, when are you going to propose to Jules? Like, are you going to be Taylor? And she's like, no, it really does her head in, but I love winding her up, so I always bring it up to her.
I love it.
Right. So, next one. I'm scared to fully commit to someone. Do you have any advice to help me get past this? I know it's hard, obviously, you don't know context, like why you're scared to commit, but a bit of
Yeah.
general.
Should we guess the attachment style? I'm
Yeah.
joking. I'm joking. Everyone can be different. Oh, you're scared to commit. The first thing I would be asking is there a reason why you're scared to commit? Could it be that you've been hurt in the past and you don't want to get hurt again? Very likely to be a reason. Or maybe you don't feel good enough to be able to really invest into a relationship, so you don't even try in the first place. But my advice would probably be to really understand the main reasons as to why you feel like that, and then challenge the fuck out of them. Can I swear?
Oh, of course you can. Of
Okay.
course you can.
Like, challenge the fuck out of the reasoning because it's very likely to be a limiting belief for you. So I don't feel good enough, or I'm scared I'm going to get hurt. And the reality is that you're right, you could get hurt. It's a possibility for sure. But there's that old saying, would you not have preferred to have been in love and had love than not even feel it at all? And I think
So
it's
true.
important to remember, like, when you're committing to a relationship, you're becoming vulnerable, and that is really, really difficult. But when you commit to the right person and somebody supports you in being vulnerable, it is the most fucking amazing thing in the world. And I wouldn't change it for anything. So if you're on the fence, always take the risk because the heartache is worth the pain when you find the right connection.
I think as well, like even if it does turn out to not be the best relationship, like what you'll learn and gain from that will help you moving forward into the next relationship. And like you said about like doing that sort of inner work, it's so hard to do, isn't it? And like to actually look into yourself, and especially when you're picking out things that you don't necessarily like about yourself or the way you are. But once you've done that work, I can only imagine it's going to make your life so much easier when you're looking to get into a relationship because you sort of know exactly what you need out of a relationship. You know the sort of relation that you want to be in. So I guess it just makes it so much easier to be like, great, I know exactly what I need to tell everyone on Tinder. Put it in my Tinder bio.
Exactly. It's and you just hit the nail on the head as well. That's exactly what it is, and it's just so worth it. I can't for people that do worry about getting themselves into relationships, you're right. You're gonna learn loads from it, but you're also gonna learn a lot about yourself. And if you're finding you've got reoccurring patterns, that's something to pay attention to because that will be what's stopping you from having success in a relationship.
Love it. So we've got a couple more. Next one. Do you have any communicationship tips? Because me and my girlfriend suck at it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I've got this 3 step. I call it a 3 step process, which you may or may not have heard before, but this is how I really simplify it because I used to really struggle in my relationships to communicate effectively and to feel heard and to not piss off my partner in the process as well. So the 3 step process is this. One, pause. And when I mean pause, what I mean by that is as soon as you feel yourself heightening in an argument, when it becomes no longer a conversation and it becomes a problem, you should stop because that's indicating in your body that you are heightening into an anxious state or a fight or flight state, so a panicked response state. When you're in that state, you're going to respond from fear with anger. So it's never going to be beneficial, and you're going to jump on the defense and you're going to start fighting your corner because that's what your body is trained to do.
We're all so guilty at doing that, aren't we? I know, like, I think probably everyone listening does that, and it's just like you just say, like, you snap and you don't think before you speak. So it's just
Yeah.
taking that breath and just composing yourself.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it literally pays dividends because
Mhm.
as soon as you recognize that, you won't respond from that place. And most people know when they're rising to that state, but the hardest bit is not letting the words come out of your mouth at that moment in
Mhm.
time. So you either stop, pause for a second, remove yourself from the situation, but make sure you communicate that. I'm
Mhm.
just going to give myself 30 seconds
Mhm.
because I'm raging right now and I want to respond to you properly. So
And
I
that's
need
in
to,
chances are you're probably going to say something that you regret if you don't take that time to just actually compose yourself and figure out what it is you want to say. Because chances are you're probably going to be like, fuck's sake, fuck you. Like, you're not actually going to say anything beneficial. You're just going to end up regretting it later. You'll be like, I didn't actually mean that. It was just the moment was so heightened.
yeah, that's exactly it. The second thing would be is to learn to emotionally regulate, or it's also known as nervous system regulation.
Mhm.
Nervous system regulation allows you to move yourself out of the fight and flight zone and into the safety zone, i.e., the normal, chilled, relaxed version of you. When you move out of the fight or flight zone, you will then respond from a place of calmness, and you'll
Mhm.
also be able to rationalize your brain a lot better and not move directly towards anger and frustration. You'll be more open to understanding each other. And then the third thing would be for you to be what's called inquisitive. So a lot of people, when they argue with their partners, when you're heightened, just want to fight your own corners.
Mhm.
You want to defend yourself till the cows come home. You want to be like, right, and you're totting all these things up in your head that you're going to bring to the table once your partner stops talking. But what you failed to do is actually hear and listen to what your partner's saying at that moment in time, and the same for them as well.
Mhm.
When you learn to become inquisitive, you truly begin the process of trying to understand your partner. So when you're in the midst of an argument, pause, regulate, however you need to regulate, and there are various ways in which you can do that. And then be inquisitive. As much as you're going to want to start shouting, as much as you're going to want to start fighting your corner, just really figure out what your partner's trying to say, because it's very likely all that they need in that moment in time is to be heard and to feel seen, no matter what the problem is. So it could be like, let's take your example with Taylor. You wanted her to put her
She's
stuff
gonna
away.
hate this that I've told the whole world that she
Taylor.
doesn't put her washing away. To be fair, she doesn't actually listen to the podcast, so just no one tell Taylor that I've mentioned this and she'll never know.
All right, gosh. So let's say you want to take put her stuff away. You've asked her, but you've been quite abrupt about it. Let's use it as an example. And she's gone, I'll put my stuff away in a bit. And you'll be like, no, I need you to do it now. She's getting pissed off because she's thinking, well, you're trying to tell me what to do. You're getting pissed off because you're like, well, all you need to do is put your clothes away and they've been there for ages. There's this battle now going on between the both of you. You're totting up these things that you can come at her with, and she's doing the same to you. But if you were to stop, and if she was to become inquisitive and be like, why is there such a rush for you to want to put the clothes away? And you're probably going to allude to something like, well, I want the house to be nice and tidy and it's our space together and it makes me feel calmer when the place is nice and sorted. What you're trying to say is, I need your help to help me feel calm and chill. And if she was inquisitive about that, it would very likely not result in an argument, because she would be like, I know she wants to keep it clean and tidy for us, so fair enough, I can put it away. And if you were inquisitive with her, you might find out that she feels quite pressured by you saying that, and that makes her feel worthless because she thinks that she's not enough because she can't just put some clothes away. And again, it's about understanding the true reasons why. So when you pause, regulate, and inquire and become inquisitive, you can really find out the hidden meaning behind the argument, and that is the best way to communicate.
Gonna say it again, but it's just so interesting because I know I'm definitely bad. Like even not in relationships and like friendships, like of just thinking of like planning my argument in my head, and I even do it after. I'm like, oh god, I wish I said that. I'm like, that was such a good comeback, but I think
Yeah.
it's probably something a lot of us do, and we don't even realize that we do it. Like I 100% will hold my hands up and say I probably have never really listened, and I've just been planning what I'm gonna say and trying to justify like the reason if they're like, why haven't you done this? And I'm thinking in my head like of a reason. But if you actually just listened and said, listen, I'm sorry, I'll do it later, we save everyone so much stress.
Exactly. But let's be real, it's not easy.
Mm.
It's not
100.
easy to let your ego go in that moment. It's so difficult. But if you do, you will prevent so many arguments.
I'm definitely gonna keep those three in mind. I'm gonna tell Taylor as well. I'm like, you need to listen to this episode, then you'll start putting your washing away on time.
Do you want to know a funny story? You know when you did your attachment style quiz,
Mm-hmm.
both I obviously got it through.
Oh yeah.
I saw Taylor's first and I didn't clock onto your name.
Hmm.
So I messaged Taylor and I was like, hey, I was like, it's Lauren here, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
And then 5 minutes later, and then I saw yours and
Uh-huh.
I was like, that's Juliet. I was like, is that her partner? So I messaged her back. I was like, I'm so sorry if Juliet's partner. And she was like, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry. I'm fully aware of my avoidance. This is what she was like, and I'm working on it. And I was like, great.
My arse, she's working on it. She
I
was
love
like, she knew what she was going to be. She's like, I'm definitely going to be like an
it. Yeah.
avoider. But I think, because like you said, obviously a lot of the questions, it's like, about like your childhood and how you felt growing up. And it's interesting, like, obviously we've known each other for like nearly 4 years. So not really into our childhoods, but we know like about how each other grew up. And it's interesting, like, how that can really affect how you grow into adulthood and how it affects your relationships and how much of yourself you're willing to give to another person. Like, as an avoidant, it took Taylor a long time to really just be like fully open with me. And we're at the stage now, like, we're just so ourselves around each other. It's probably a bit weird and gross to people who don't know us. If they like were a fly on the wall, they'd be like, why the fuck are you
Yeah.
like? I'm obsessed. I've said this on the podcast before. I love Taylor's toes. I just think they're so cute. People are like, why the fuck are you like looking at Taylor's toes? Like, but we're just so like comfortable with each other. Like, I don't even think about how it's weird that I think our toes are really cute, but they are. Just little cute
Oh,
toes.
that's cute.
She hates my toes. She thinks they're the ugliest things in the world. We both got our nails in at the same place. Little bitch went and told Cleo, our nail technician, hi Cleo, if you're listening, you're probably not. She was like, oh, you're doing Juliet's toes next week, they're horrible. And then Cleo was like, you've got lovely toes, Juliet. And I was like, thank you, Cleo. So we
Yeah.
both go, when we got our nails and we both go and like bitch about each other, and she loves it. She like,
Yeah.
she proper like gets involved. She's like, oh, well, Taylor said this, and she'll tell Taylor something. I said, I'm like, Cleo. But
Oh my God, that's
it's
hilarious.
great. She's like, I always think like hair technicians, like nail people, they're always like people that you can just go and like tell everything to because they don't care. They hear so many stories every day and they're
Yeah.
just doing your nails and whatever. But yeah,
Yeah, I love that.
definitely
Me
both.
and Lauren have the same nail technician as
Mm-hmm.
well for hands, and we don't divulge too much. Lauren, I would say Lauren's becoming more secure now, which is amazing, but used
Mm-hmm.
to be quite avoidant in her ways, and she was quite a closed book, so she wouldn't tell anyone everything, and I'm there with my nail technician telling her
Oh
everything.
God, I literally tell them like my whole life story. I'm like, you probably don't even care about this, but I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. But something I do to annoy Lauren when I just feel like annoying her, because let's be real, sometimes it just happens. You feel
Just want to
like
wind them
being
up sometimes.
I know what nail color she's gone and got, and we'll go at similar times in the week, and then she'll get them, and I'll request exactly the same one, just to annoy her.
Me and Taylor have done that before. She'd got a certain colour, and I was like, "Oh, I'll get that colour." So she keeps her nails really short, whereas I've got quite long nails. And so obviously they don't look exactly the same. But she's like, "You little bitch! Like you stole my nail colour." I'm like, "Yeah, but now we look really cute because we can like hold hands and we'll have like matching nails." But
Oh my God,
no, it
right?
definitely winds her up too. So if anyone's
Yeah,
listening and wants to wind up their girlfriend or their partner, and you both like to get your nails done, get the same nail colour. There you
definitely
go. I think
annoy.
it's quite sweet, isn't it, when you both got like little matching colours? But
Yeah. I say to Lauren all the time, I was like, just envision this, right? We're walking down the street, like we look different. Like she's
mhm,
in incredible shape. She's a personal trainer, so
mhm.
she looks incredible. And I'm like, imagine us walking down the same street. We've got some baggy jeans on the same color, but you've got a white top and I've got a black top. We've got same matching nails, the same coat. We've got married. We have exactly the same name. How cool is that? And she was like,
That's brilliant,
absolutely.
isn't it?
I think it's amazing.
I think that is so cool.
Yeah, right?
Love it. I just
Yeah.
honestly, I think it's so like there's nothing like being in love with another woman. I just think it's so like unique. And I've just done a blog post for a blog that's coming out, and one of the first questions was like, what does it mean to you like to be a woman and a queer woman? I was like, there is genuinely no feeling like falling in love with another woman for the first time. And I think women like you said earlier, like we've got like especially if you're both on your period, like you are going to argue like hell. But when you really, really do the work, like you can understand each other on such a deeper level than I think like heterosexual relationships do, because as a woman you understand like what you want from a relationship, and as another woman in the relationship you can sort of like work it out together. But it's
Yeah.
great.
It is the best because you just get each other once you've worked through the trauma, once you've worked through the attachment, you get one another and you just can just wholeheartedly support one another. Like Lauren came through the door earlier and she rides a bike and she couldn't pump up the bike tires properly. She was having a right mental breakdown about it. And I know that that's because it could be revolving around the same time of the month, or maybe she's on
Mm-hmm.
that. and like I'm just going to love her and support her. Whereas a lot of people, especially if you're in a heterosexual
Hmm.
relationship, the man might be like, oh, for God's sake, here we go again. Where I'm
Hmm.
like, I know what she's feeling, I know what she's thinking, and I
Hmm.
know what support she needs.
Yeah, and a woman probably wouldn't even hesitate to be like, right, I'll pump up the tyres for you, whereas men, they might not get the signal. But I know
Yeah,
Taylor's quite like that. Like, if you want something done, like the other day, really didn't want to go and collect dinner with her. So I was in the bath, and I did actually lie to her. She was like, you were staying in the bath because you knew then you wouldn't have to come with you. I was like, no, I totally forgot what time we were getting food. But she just knew that, like, not to come and disturb me. So she just went and got the food. And it's like, I didn't have to say it, I just had to be in the bath and pretend that I forgot that we were collecting dinner at 7. But it's little things like that that really make relationships like so special, because I was like, really just couldn't be asked to get
yeah,
dressed after my bath and drive, because she always makes me go in as well, and I didn't want to do that. So
yeah. And tummy rubs as well, right? Because I think a lot of heterosexual couples, should a man want to give a woman a tummy rub, 99% of the time there's gonna allude to the fact that they probably want sex or something.
mm,
Whereas with a woman, if you are generally caring for them and you know it is that time of the month or they have got a bad back, you're gonna do it out the love of your own
mhm,
heart because you want to help. And that's just such an incredible thing to know that you have
absolutely.
a hidden agenda a lot of the
Mhm.
time as
Yeah,
well.
and you're willing to make those sacrifices. Like, I know, like me and Taylor both love a back scratch, and sometimes like I cannot be asked to do it, but it's like you're willing to make the sacrifice because you know how happy it's going to make the other person. So you just do those sort of things, and yeah, you might be like pissed off for the first like couple of seconds. Like, oh, I really don't want to do it, but just making them sacrifices, it does make stuff worthwhile, because then she might give you a back scratch back. So
Exactly.
that's what I say.
And
I'm like, I scratch your back, so my fucking turn.
the saying literally works. If you do something for your partner that they love, they if you agree it, they'll also do something you love back in return. I know they say you shouldn't give to receive. I'm sorry, but sometimes you should give to receive, because if you can compromise on it, you do something for them that they love, they'll do something for you that you love. What a great setup, right?
Yeah, 100%. So, last proper question, and then I have one more question for you. So, we'll finish off with any advice for how to set boundaries in a relationship?
Yeah. Boundaries is a really difficult one for a lot of people. In fact, probably one of the most difficult ones in many ways. So, if you want to set a boundary with a partner, the best thing that you can do is set it early on in the relationship and know that you're doing it for the sake of having a healthy relationship as opposed to just being dictatorial as a person.
Mhm.
And there is no easy way to set a boundary, but if you're going to set one or you need to set one, you need to think about the rational reasons behind why you want to set the boundary and what benefit that's going to have for you and your partner. Quite a lot of the time, we think we should set boundaries because it's a personal thing, but actually, it is for the benefit of the relationship as well. So, when you're communicating that with your partner, as hard as it is, make sure that you're in a safe, calm environment, first of all. And then, when you bring it up, always highlight the benefits to them as well,
Mm.
how it's going to help them or how it's going to help the relationship. Because ultimately, setting a boundary is, although very personal, it's also a two-way thing. So communicate the benefits to them as well. And when you're coming to setting a consequence, because no boundary should be set without consequence, because that's the whole purpose of a
Mhm.
boundary, you need to make sure that the consequence is reasonable and also compromisable if need be. Because a lot of the time when we come to setting boundaries, we allude to the consequence to the boundary being end of relationship. If you can't do this, it will mean end of
Mhm.
relationship. And that's really heavy, first of
Yeah.
all, to set. And secondly, that person is very open to error in that way because it's scary to
Yeah, it
set a
puts you on
boundary,
edge, doesn't it?
right? And so when you're setting the consequence, make sure it is reasonable and it is compromisable. So if you, I don't know, as an example, it could be, I know we spend every evening together, but I'm really unhappy with the way that I look at the moment. So I want to commit 2 or 3 times a week in the evening going to the gym. I know it's going to eat into our time, but if I can feel better within myself, it's going to improve our sex life. I'm going to be able to treat you better because I'm going to be able to invest more time in you because I won't be so worried about myself. And it's going to ultimately make our relationship better because I'm going to feel
Mhm.
great myself. I know it's going to eat into our time. However, how about I make sure that I find some extra time at the weekend to be able to spend together so that you don't feel like you're losing out on time with it, we are feeling losing time with each other. Like that's a really, really great
Mm.
boundary. The consequence to the boundary would be if this is something you don't want to allow me to do, that will really question how much you want me to love and improve myself. And
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to be connected to someone that wouldn't be interested in helping me do that. If that's something you can't do, then it's very likely that I'm gonna do it through our time at the weekends, which means we won't spend any time together at the
Mm-hmm.
weekend at all. Is that what you would prefer? Because if not, then this is going to be the best option for the both of us. And then that consequence will be, well, I'm going to do it at the weekend then. And then your partner has a decision to make. And they're always going to want to do it what is ever going to favour the relationship the most. So
Yeah.
always make sure the consequences in alignment with the outcome. And the last thing is, if your partner can't respect your boundary, be prepared to take action on the
Mm-hmm.
consequence. Because there is nothing worse for your own self-worth and your relationship than saying you're going to do something and you don't do it. Because what you say to your partner is, I'm not going to enforce this. So I can
Mm-hmm.
tell you that I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to enforce it. So you can continue to take the piss because you know that
Mm-hmm.
I'm serious with it. So always enforce the consequence to the boundary.
Because I guess otherwise it just sort of damages the respect within the relationship, doesn't it? Because the partner maybe then just thinks that they can keep getting away with these things that they've been doing. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Gonna say it one final time. Interesting. Love it. So, final question. It's a bit of a fun one. I know some of these have been like heavy-ish topics, but final one. I would love to know what is the most lesbian, the most gay thing you have ever done?
Ooh, so I would probably say the most gayest thing I've ever done is date my friend's exes.
Fair.
Can I justify myself here?
Absolutely.
The lesbian dating pool in each town is relatively small. So if you're going to meet people in your own town, it's very likely that somewhere you're connected. Have you heard of the L word? I would be surprised if you
Mm-hmm.
hadn't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that chart through the
Yeah.
L word,
Mm-hmm.
like it's literally a real thing. You could probably do it in your own town and link
Yeah.
each other
I
to
think
help.
everyone's linked in some way. Like everyone's dated her, or they know someone who dated her, and da, 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 da. Everyone
Yeah.
probably definitely
And
has a
because
connection.
a lot of people are avoidant, the lesbian dating pool is massive
Mm.
because in terms of each town, sorry, that's not true. Let me completely rephrase that. The lesbian dating pool is small within each town. However, it's very likely that you will connect to people from other towns that you don't even know
Mm-hmm.
about. But the amount of women that are available in certain towns would naturally mean that somewhere down the line they're going to be connected to friends in
Mm-hmm.
some capacity. So, how much do you value your friendship and how much do you want to find love, I
It's
guess?
well, you know what? It's funny. One of my students that I teach dance to came to me the other day, and she was like, "All my friends are being so horrible to me because I'm seeing my friend's ex." And I was like, "If you are both happy," I was like, "if this friendship doesn't really mean a lot to you," I was like, "you have to prioritize your happiness." I was like, "That's what's most important. If you genuinely think, I mean, they're very young, so the chance of them being together forever are slim. I mean, you never know what could happen, but it's like." You have to prioritize like your future self as well and think what's going to benefit me most, like a friendship that's obviously a little bit toxic if your friend is going to treat you this way in a situation, or a relationship that's hopefully going to teach you, even if it doesn't last forever, you're going to learn some valuable life lessons from it and have those like experiences with this person. Whereas if you're going to choose the friendship, this friend's probably never going to be your friend again because you've dated her ex. You have to put yourself first in situations like that, I think, and just think, you know what, I want to be happy, I want to prioritize my happiness. So
And also question why your friend would have a problem with it if they had moved on as
the
well.
thing is, like, you clearly didn't like this person. You weren't meant to be. Even if you're still friends, it's like you should still, be happy for your other friend to, be able to move on. If you, especially if the breakup was on like good terms, it's like you should want the best for your friend and for your ex. So seeing them together should be
Yes.
should be great.
I love that mentality. I wish all lesbians had that mentality, but I just don't think that's the case for them. Which means that there are more lesbians that got to do a lot more work on themselves, right?
Absolutely. Well, that's saying like 70% if they're avoiding, and it makes sense, like you say, that's why so many of them are back in the dating pool because they can't stay in a relationship. So I think what we've learned from this episode, everyone needs to go and do Lauren's quiz, find out what attachment style they are, do some coaching. We can all be happy, great, wonderful people.
Exactly.
Which sort of brings us on to, do you want to sort of tell everybody where they can find you and how they can work with you and all good stuff like that?
Amazing. So the main platform that I utilize is TikTok, and you can find me under the name Lauren Sandford, Sandford. That's where I produce most of my free support and content. So you'll get a lot of tips, tricks, advice on there around attachment styles, especially anxious attachment styles. But I'm also on Instagram at Lauren Sandford _. And I also provide a lot of value on there. But if you ever wanted to ask me any questions, you can always just drop into my DMs on TikTok, and I provide a lot of free support for people in the DMs as well. So please feel free to do that if you're struggling and you need some help.
Love that. I'll link everything down below as well, and I'll definitely pop the link to the quiz as well, because I think it's so interesting to learn, especially in a relationship, like, or even if you're trying to get into a relationship, to understand what type of attachment you are, so you know the best way to approach going into the relationship. And if you're in a relationship, it's interesting to know like how you can sort of best help each other out, because I think like when me and Taylor got into our relationship, if we knew what attachment styles we were, it would have made communication a lot easier from the get-go, because you understand why I need all this time and why Taylor needs the space, which obviously we worked out 4 years later. If you could have done it at the start of the relationship, there'd probably be
Yeah,
so more relationships that would actually end up working out, because everyone
yeah.
understands each other a lot better.
Yeah. If avoidance can become less avoidant, and if anxious people can become less anxious, we're all going to have much better relationships. So it's always a win to understand and
Yeah.
know it.
Then the dating pool will just keep going down and down. There'll be no one
Amazing.
left.
That'd be great, right?
Absolutely. Well, anyway, thank you so much for coming on today. I know I've learned so much, and everyone's probably absolutely mortal right now from how many times I've said the word interesting. But it
That's
has been so interesting to learn from you and sort of pick your brain a little bit. And hopefully, everyone who sent in those questions has, learned something that they can do to really help improve their relationship, or, whatever it was that they were sending in. So, thank you so
a
much.
pleasure. I really appreciate you inviting me on as well. Thank you.
It's been great.